Please also give a quick review of what we are going to do, like maybe in the first 30 to 40 minutes, what you're going to cover, and then how we'll go on taking the questions from the audience. That would help us a lot. Yeah, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Utkarsh. Hey everyone, thank you for joining. Really excited to be talking to the community. I've been part of the community from day one. Not really active over there, but it's glad to be, speaking to everyone like this. I'll quickly share my screen and I'll walk you through what we are going to do today. Utkarsh, I think this will end your sharing, okay?
Right, yeah, I've actually shared, ended my share. I'm also videoing co-host permission from you just so that you don't get disturbed when people join in.
Okay.
Can you still share? Can you please check?
No, I can't.
Okay.
It says
sorry.
It's just disabled the sharing.
Yeah, please try again now, and then I'll remove the permission. You can do it, right? I'm removing permission. Just one second. Yeah, please go ahead. I'll do it now.
Okay. So we are good, right?
Wait. I think okay. Seems like that won't work. Yeah, please share. I will be here, and please don't mind the people joining in here and there. Will you please share your screen again?
Cool.
Yeah, we are good.
All right. Utkarsh very kindly said a couple of things about me. I am Priyanka. I am a self-taught designer. I'm building Mountain digital product design and branding studio. We're a remote-only team with designers from all sorts of backgrounds. We work with a lot of early-stage companies, established companies, and help them with their design needs. Mostly our expertise lies in working with early stage and help people launch their product and help them with pretty much everything that they need on their MVP. Some of our recent clients or like people we've worked with in the last three-ish years, actually more than 3 years, are these. You must have heard at least a couple of names, if not more. And a lot more clients in stealth, very early companies. Right. So I'll get to the point right away because we are limited on time. The agenda for today would be one, understanding how you can navigate through Figma. I work with a lot of people, early stage, who are not familiar with the Figma, and most of the agenda today kind of formed itself because I've heard a lot of questions about, how do I do this? How do I do that from them? So I've based this on top of that. We'll learn how to navigate through Figma, the very basics. We'll see how we can do a wireframe on top of any existing feature. For example, if you take a screenshot and you want to add things on top of it and create a very basic flow, how do we do that using Figma? And another one that we'll do is do a screen from scratch. So if you have an idea in your mind, in this case, we'll do that for WhatsApp. If you have an idea in your mind, how do you put that across? Obviously, the same thing you can do in any other tool as well. So I'll start with the what we call as the wireframe, right? And why wireframes are needed, for what they actually are. So wireframes, they help us define the layout, the content placement, and the flow for user journeys. And they're very helpful in putting across your ideas so others can visualize it. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is one person is thinking about something being implemented in one way, the other person is thinking in another way. So if you quickly put a wireframe on paper, on any tool in any kind of fidelity, it's much easier to get to a common ground. They're used very early in product lifecycle before any visual work is done. Because it's much easier to change it and evolve on it. In a very established process, they're quite handy. But like I said, I work with a lot of early stage companies as well, right? And there are people who have never worked with designers or design before. And they're not familiar with the concept. So they can be taken at the face value. Therefore, it's very important to establish, to communicate the purpose and the fidelity early on. Otherwise, what you will pass on as a wireframe, someone will take as, the final deliverable, and they'll think that, okay, what is this? It's not making sense. So that's why it's very important to share that. Why we are doing this in Figma? So there are many tools, right? Seasoned people will know that there are tools like Balsamic, for example, that you can use for wireframing. There are many tools. We are doing this in Figma because it's free. It's available on Windows, on Mac, on browser. So anyone can use it, right? And if you want to go deep into it, there's a lot of scope. And another reason would be sometimes some tools get very restrictive. You have to learn a lot of things within the tool. Therefore, I'm not showing you any special designing capability that Figma has, right? Mostly 90% of the things that I show you, you can do that on any other tool, except for basic prototyping, which some tools have that, some tools don't. But you can do it in any other tool like Google Slides, Keynote, Canva, whatever you want to use. I'm also not going to be using any templates, because before getting to the templates, you again need to understand, you need to have some intermediate level of knowledge of the tool, right? So that's why I'll just show you very basics, which will come in handy without needing to learn, how templates work, how this particular feature of Figma or any other tool works. So you can apply it anywhere. One more thing, this is a follow along session. So I'll be doing things on my screen. I'll be sharing what I'm doing as I do that. And there's a file that I've made for everyone to practice on. I'll share that after the session. There are instructions on that, and if you have any trouble, you can, you'll understand enough to Google that, or if not, you can always reach me on, various social platforms. So let's start. I'll switch to Figma and start with the basics. Any questions?
Just one kind of announcement from me. Folks, so we will not probably not be taking many questions during the session. Please write them into the chat and we'll take them towards the end. Anything that you have related to the session or in general. I know a lot of you have written questions in the sign-up form that we shared. We'll take some of those as well. So please write your questions in the chat and we'll take that maybe 30 to 40 minutes from now. Priyanka, that's how long this will last, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So 30 to 40 minutes or monologue, and then we'll take the questions. That's it.
So because there's a lot to cover, but I want everyone to come to a point where, at the end of this, they can do something on their own. So this will take a little while. Just bear with me, please.
Thank you for that. Yeah, let's start.
Okay, so this is Figma, right? So we'll start from the very scratch. So this is the page that you'll see when you open Figma for the first time. As you can see, I have a lot of files here already because I work on that every single day. But you would see, you wouldn't see anything here. To start with, towards the left side, you're seeing your account info. You're seeing where your recent files are, where your drafts are. Community is there for plugins, resources, all sorts of help is available there. I wouldn't go deep into it, but it has like very good resources if you're trying things out. Okay, so this is what your community looks like. Then here you have your favorite files. I don't have any right now. You have your teams. I'm on multiple teams. I have multiple projects inside each team, so they're visible here. You can click on this and expand on. I think I won't be doing that because a lot of it is client data. But otherwise, you can open any of these teams or projects that that anyone shares with you. Towards the top, you have very easy search. On the right side, you have notifications. Sometimes people tag you on comments. That appears here. Any kind of updates, they appear here. And towards the right are your basic account settings, etc. So this is the first interface that you'll see anytime you open Figma for desktop. I'm on Mac, by the way, but I'm pretty sure that it looks very similar on Windows also. You can also see the same thing on the browser as well, but I obviously prefer the desktop version because it's much more powerful than a browser, right? Yeah, so that is your basic account navigation, right? So this is where you'll find all your files. All the recent files will be visible here. If you're lost and you've opened any file, you can find that here later on. Okay, so next, getting through the actual file, right? So starting from the left side, sometimes when you get to a page, when you open a file, you will land into a view like this. And you have no idea where to go from here. For example, here, there's nothing there. The first thing that you do is you expand this and you'll see other pages that the designer has created. So I have, for example, done this kind of a structuring where the basics are here. These are the pages where we'll do the wireframes live, and then there are a couple of pages where you can try things yourself after we are done. So these are called all the pages. Then within each page, you will have different frames. For example, this is a frame, and within each frame, you have your different objects. So in this is a frame, this is a text object, this is an image object. So all of that, you can see that here. You can expand and collapse different frames or different artworks. So this is the left panel. The right panel will change for everyone. If you have design access, design privilege on any file, you'll see this design section. You click on this and the right panel will change based on whatever the object you've selected. In this case, it is text. So you will see all the text properties. If this is an image, you will see image properties. Then there are prototype. If you want to create prototypes, settings for that. We'll go into that in a little bit. And there's inspect, which is for developers. So they can import code right from code and all sorts of assets right from Figma. Towards top right, you have sharing. If you want to share that with anyone and you want to change, what privilege they get, you can view that here. And there is a prototype, present button. So I'll show you an example of a prototype. So this is what a prototype would look like if you've said that rightly. So I've selected that this is a basic Android phone. Towards the left side, you will see the different flows that the designer must have made, or if you are going to make that. So this is one flow, this is another flow. You can again share the prototype from here, and that's pretty much all that you can do here. If it's a interactive prototype, then you will see hotspots here. When you click right, small rectangle or like small shapes appear for a second or two that you can click on. If it's an interactive prototype, you'll see that here. So this is how the interface looks like. Basic tools are here. This one is for just for navigating through your workspace. This I will skip for now. This is all your basic shapes: rectangle, lines, arrows, ellipses. This one is to draw vectors with the pen tool. You won't be needing that, I'm pretty sure. There is a text tool. There is a hand tool again, which you can use to freely move without editing the file. And then there is your comment. So all of this is covered right here. You can comment here, and you can tag anyone. For example, I'll tag someone from my team like this. Actually, not hello. Please change this to something else. Yeah. For example, this, right? So you can comment on a particular area, and they can then respond here. And once you're done, you can resolve the comment. So I think this covers everything about the layout. One more important thing that you should be seeing, I think my screen is not taking the menu bar on top. There's a plugin menu, but you can also access that from here. There are a lot of plugins available. I won't ask you to download any of these, but one thing which will be helpful for you while you do wireframes is to find one that has a lot of icons. So obviously, when you when you show the wireframe to your designer, or like when you pass it off to the designers, they'll be working on the iconography. But for the sake of the wireframe, if you need anything, you can use any of these plugins. They have very easy. So I use this Iconify plugin right now. It has a very easy search interface. You can find like a lot of. They have like over 100K icons, right? You can use anything, and then when it actually gets to visual design, your designers will refine it. I think that covers the entirety of the interface. I'll actually get into the editing mode now. So to start with, we'll do a very basic screen with a couple of UI elements. You press A, or you get to this tool here, which is your frame tool. So you can press A or F or anything. And on the right side, you'll see a lot of templates for different device sizes. I will, for example, choose this one right now. And this just gets created here, right? So I'll do that again. I'll press A or F, and I'll choose this, and it just appears right here. So this is the way that you can create any kind of artboard. You'll see standard devices here, tablets, desktop, presentation, watch, paper, social media, a lot of different sizes, pre-made sizes. Otherwise, you can create, if you press A and you draw something like this, then you can create anything of a custom size also. And you can go here and change the width or the height like this. So this is equivalent of creating a new slide, for example, in Google Slides, right? And then within that, you're creating a basic frame where your design or your wireframe will live. The next thing is you can move this around like so, very easy to drag, right? You select this and you move this around. I hope I'm not going too fast. Everyone is able to follow this. Next, we'll type something. So you can use this tool here, or you can press T. Let's call this a button. Right. If you select this, like I showed earlier, different properties will appear based on the tool, based on the object you've selected. For text, these are the text properties that will appear, and you can play around with the different typography properties, and you can play around with fill, color, stroke, effects, everything. So you enter some text. How do you create basic shapes? So press R for a rectangle, and so square is also a rectangle. So by default it creates 100 by 100, but you can also create like this. You can create an oval shape. You can create a line. I'm just using the keyboard shortcut, but everything is visible here as well. Polygon, star. If you want to place an image, it will place a placeholder, and you can upload an image as well. Okay, so this is your basics of creating text and shapes. Now let's say we want to create a button, right? So there is a text. There's a background object to that. I will move it here. So it goes, because the layering is such that this rectangle is above the text object. So this is covering the text object. So we'll change the order like so, or you can right click and bring to front, send to back. These are available in all most tools that you would use. So this creates your button. And once the button is created, you can group that together. So every time you move that around, you change the size, it applies to both the things. So to do that, you can select right click and group selection, or you can do Command G. There is another concept called frames in Figma, but I won't go into that. I think groups are there in all other tools as well. So I'll continue to use that. However, Figma's Figma is very powerful when you start using frames, but I won't get into that. Once you have created any group, right, and you want to select one of the objects inside that, you can press Command, or I think Control on a Windows device, and you can move your pointer over that, and it will directly select this. So by default, if you select this, it will select the whole group, but I press Command and then I hover over it. So it will select the text field, or it will select the background rectangle object. Okay, so we made a button like this. Then you can make duplicates, right? For example, if I want to create 2-3 types of buttons, one with a primary state, one with a secondary state, one with a disabled state. So you can do Command D or Control D, I'm sure. I haven't mentioned Windows shortcuts here because I had to check that. But I'm pretty sure most of these times you can just replace Command with Control. So Command D, Command D, and you move that. So if I press Command D again, it will take the last 2 actions, which is duplicating and moving it the same number of pixels. So it was, and you can view the distance between any 2 objects by pressing Alt and hovering over the other object. So I've selected this, I'm pressing Alt, and now I'm on the frame. So it will show me what are my X and Y coordinates and all the margins and everything. And if I hover over another object, it will show me like this. So we've created duplicates also. You can rename objects. It is not necessary, but if you want to do this in long term, it's a good practice, because over time everything will end up becoming group 1, 2, 3. And if you're trying to find something particular, it will be difficult for you because you'll have to select everything. That's why I try. I mean, at least for designers, it's a very basic ask, but for other folks, it's a good practice. So, for example, I can rename this as my caps is on. Primary button. I can rename this as secondary button. So later on, if I want to select any of these, and right now they look the same, but if they look different, it will be easy for me to find that. Then changing the styles, the very basics, right? So what I will do is Command and hover over the background. So that selects my background of this. So this I have renamed as button/primary. So that's why I'll make this into a very solid color. For example, this here, you can use any of the colors, right? If you have a hex code or like in any other format, you can paste that here. I won't go into this in detail because it's pretty much same in all tools. So you can change this to any color. Let's do this. Let's do FFF, which is white. So this would be our primary because it has a solid background. The other one, let's try to make this into a secondary button. So for the fill, I will change it to white, which is FFF. I don't know how many Fs you have to type. For the other one, I will add a stroke, stroke is also a border, right? What you normally call a border. So I will add a stroke here, and I will change the text color to the same blue. In Figma, whatever colors you've used in the file, they will start appearing in the color selector. So it is easier for you to reuse the same colors. And the third one, let's make it like a little more disabled. Right now it's looking quite like it's a normal button. Let's say like it looks something like this. So we've changed the fill and stroke, and by that we've created 3 different styles. You probably won't always have to use this, but in case there are cases where the state of a button changes and you need to communicate that. So in those cases, you'll need to use something like this. Okay, and one more thing is you can change the opacity. For example, in this case, I'm changing the opacity of the entire button here in the layer section of the design panel to, let's say, 50%. In this case, I will change this only for the background, not for the text, the yellow text. So I can do that here. 50. So there, I mean, it's difficult to probably see that right now. If I zoom into it, Here the yellow text, let's make it 30%, right? I think it is not that visible. So in this case, the text is also kind of, I mean, it has become opaque also, sorry, transparent also. In this case, only the background has become transparent. Yeah, so that was your basic shapes. Then lines, you can create a line like this. You can look into the line properties towards the right side. You can add arrows towards the left, towards the right, and any kind of arrows that you want. Like, it's a circular thing. You can change the stroke like this. Too much, but yeah, for example, this. Yeah, I think this is all that you need to get started. And most of these things, I'm just trying to look at, probably duplicates will not work in similar way on other tools, but I think all the other things already exist in things like Canva, Keynote, your Google Slides, like other tools. Most of them have all these things as well. So you can do the same thing over there. Now let's get into doing something from scratch. So I have a very interesting example. Let's add an edit feature to a tweet. So I've taken a screenshot from Elon Musk's tweet here. Although this is from my own account, so this will have my handle information, my picture and everything here. So we'll change that. We'll also add, there's this menu that opens when you click on this ellipsis or more button, right? So we'll do one option where the edit button is part of this menu. We'll do another option where the edit button is in form of an icon right next to this button. And we'll do another where it is similar to this reply button or the tweet button, but it's placed right here. I won't go deep into why it is needed or not needed and if there are other ways to do this, but I just thought that, you know, this would be something that everyone will connect with. Okay, so let's start. I'll keep this as reference, which is why I will duplicate this, Command D. Now what I'll do is I'll create a frame outside of this. Like I said, you can do A or F. You can drag it around, and this is now enclosed within this frame. Why are we using frame? We can probably not use a frame also, but it will enclose everything and the next menu also on top of this. That's why I've used it, and we'll also do a very basic prototype where when you click over this menu appears. So that's why it's needed that everything remains within one object. So that's why I'm using frame here or an artboard and other tools. So I've created one right outside this, and I will do this here, resize to fit, which will quickly snap this to the boundaries of my image. Now let's do one for this as well, duplicate. And we'll do one like this. Okay, to start with, I think I on purpose, I took the screenshot in such a way that I'll show you, how to edit this as well. You double click on this, and then you can very easily drag these handles around. So now your boundaries of the menu will disappear because we want to add something on top, right? That's why we'll make another rectangle which will enclose the new option as well. And I pressed enter and those things disappeared. And it's not destructive. Unlike other tools, it still stays like this. I can double click again and I can go back to the previous dimensions. So if you've pasted a screenshot here, you can, no matter how many changes you make, it'll continue to stay there. So you're less bound to make any mistakes. Okay, but anyway, we resized this. Now let's say we want to add an edit tweet button right on top. So I pressed T, I started typing edit tweet. Let's make this look somewhat similar to this. I don't know what exactly this size is. Let's say this is 16. kind of like 16, right? Or 14 or 15, I'm not sure. I'll just keep this on 16. You can actually inspect this and then find out what is the right size and then make it look exactly the same. But we won't go into that. So there's an edit tweet button. Let's also make that look like the primary button. So I will use the eyedropper and change the color. And now we want to add an icon, which is where your the iconify plugin will come in handy. I highly recommend using one or more such plugins where you can find any kinds of icons. So we'll try to find something for edit. So there are lots of different types of edits, like file edit and profile edit and message edit and whatever. Let's just try to use something like this. Okay, and we'll change this color as well to match. So I'm zooming out and I'm trying to, yeah. So the color is now the same, right? And I'm moving this here. So it kind of looks like it is part of the menu now. I'm not sure if this bold also doesn't work, probably like medium. Kind of looks like it's part of the menu, right? I think it should be 15. Sorry, I'm not trying to be a perfectionist about it. Just wanted to look like a part of it. So now I'll draw a rectangle on top of the whole thing. Actually, before we do that, let's group these two things together. Command G. We'll rename that to the edit menu item. And this in the background is your like default menu or whatever you want to call it. Sorry, I made a typo. Default menu. Made a typo again. No, this is right. Sorry. Now we'll do a rectangle. And we will move that below everything. We'll change the color to white, FFF. We'll add a little stroke, which signifies that this entire thing is one single menu. And now we can choose to add shadows to it or like change the color to match this color scheme, but we won't do that. I've already shown you how you can do that. You can apply like shadows from here. You can play around with different types of inner shadows, outer shadows, colors, and how much blur they will have, but we won't do that right now. So this is ready now. I'll select this again and resize to fit. No, I think because of the shadow, this didn't work. Yeah. So your menu is now ready. Okay, now let's add that to this frame. So there are two things that I see because I've taken this screenshot. Here it is my my own image. So we want to communicate that this user is Elon Musk because only they'll be able to edit their tweet, right? So I'll do a small circle here. I will do a rectangle here, and I will eyedrop that and select white color so it disappears. And I will type on top of that Elon Musk and @Elon Musk. I'm not like too fussy about whether the size is similar or not, but the idea is that this is your the same user, and same goes here. You can actually add an image also. Like I can try to find the same image and paste that image into this object, but let's not do that right now. So now this entire page looks like this is from Elon Musk's feed, although he wouldn't see this in Hindi here. Let's duplicate this and let's copy our drop-down menu. Command C. I have clicked on the second frame and Command V. So now this will put it on top of your existing frame, image, whatever. So in this way, here this is one of the states. Here this is another state. When you click on this, this is one option, right? Let's rename this as option 1.1 and option 1.2. because they're all part of your option one. We'll do another option where we'll do an icon here. So I'll copy the same icon and I'll go and paste that on top of this. Let's see, like this could be another option that the Twitter design team could explore to edit this. So this is another option where your edit flow will start from here. In this case, it will start from after one extra click. So discoverability is an issue here. I don't know if that's an issue or if that's a good thing. So this is another option. The third option would be if we put like an upfront button here. So to do that, what we'll need to do is press R, do a rectangle here, change the color. Do we want to make this primary or secondary? I think it should be secondary, right? It shouldn't be as prominent as this button. So we'll make this FFF. We'll do a stroke of the same color. Yeah, so not primary button. There is this radius, corner radius option here. So I will apply not 10, I will apply like, and I will type edit tweet and try to place that here. I think the spacing is a little too tight. And we'll change this color also to your, yeah. Okay, make it like even bold. So now you have three options. I'll delete this. So the first option is you open this in the menu. Second is as just an icon without much text. The third is like with an edit tweet button. Now let's say we want to present this to our team, right? So for that, I will recommend that you present this in a prototype rather than over here. I'm sure like when you're following someone on a tool where they're zooming in, zooming out, moving around a lot, it's difficult to follow that. I'm pretty sure like not everyone would be following all my actions right now. So that's why I'll always prefer you to present it in some form of a presentation, and we can use the prototype here. So we'll create one prototype for this clickable prototype. So what we want to do is we want to make this area tappable. But because this is a button, there is no real object here, right? That we can assign to a click action. That's why I'm creating a small rectangle here, and I'm removing the fill from that. So the rectangle is still there, and we can use that. Yeah, we can use that to go to the next screen. So now I will go to the prototype section here. By default, it will be set to none. So what I'll do is I will command. So this rectangle, command select. And I will just, you see this plus icon here, right? When you go in the prototype mode, it changes to this. So, and you drag it to the right screen. Now all the interaction details will come here. By default, it will be set to on click. So by default, you don't need to change anything. If you want to learn more about this, you can always Google and watch some videos. But by default, it will be that you click on this and you go to the next screen. You just have to point your cursor to that. So your first flow is done. We'll call that, option 1. So when you actually present this, it doesn't appear as flow. It appears as, option 1. Or you can make it more descriptive. You can make it like edit tweet option 1, something like this. So when I present, I have like some 20 different options for some things. So it's very important to make sure that all the everything is labeled properly. So it's the second one. There is no action associated with it. It's a static option, but even then we'll need to assign a starting point for this. So I'll just do a plus here and a double click here to rename this to edit tweet option 2. The third one is also a static option. So flow starting point, and double click, edit tweet, option 3. And you can set any device sizes, like I showed you this earlier, right? This one. So this frame was not, I didn't make this frame. I just selected an Android device of a particular size from this menu. I selected Android large in this case. But this is a non-standard device size, which is why I'll just use presentation. So it will take the size of whatever my flows are. Okay, now we're done with the first example. We'll just quickly view that. So remember, I showed this button present. You can go here. And now on the left side, sometimes it appears like this. And if you're not able to see where my other options went, you just have to open this. So this is my edit tweet option 1, because we assigned the action to this, right? You see the change in the cursor? You click on this and your menu opens. You press R to restart this, click on this and your menu opens. Then the second option like this, the third option like this. So you see the advantage of using this prototype feature is that everything appears in contrast with each other, right? If you were to share something like this, people probably wouldn't understand what the difference between these 3 options is. Whereas if you put that all of these options in the same size, in the same presentation mode, then people will start to notice that, this is the only thing which is changing in this page. Trust me, like communicating design decisions and ideas, that's a huge part of designing. Okay, so we're done with the first.
Priyanka, sorry to barge in, just a quick. Can you go back to the prototype? I just, if you could please point out what happens if you click on anywhere else. Like for example, when I'm presenting myself, I forget the kind of interactions that I've put in over here. So clicking anywhere and how that.
Yeah, this will do that. Sorry, that's a good point. So this is you can turn this on and off. This is called hotspot hints on click. So you can turn this off. If you're, for example, testing with users and you would like them to figure this out on by themselves, then I would turn this off, and they'll have to figure out where to click. But if I'm showing this to people who I want them to discover these things, then I will turn this on. And now if I click anywhere else, this small rectangle is appearing here.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the first of the 2 wireframes. So this one was more towards people who would like to add things on top of existing products. The other one, which we'll do now, is if you're trying to create something from scratch. For example, we'll do the structure for this page from scratch. Looks like a little intimidating, but it's very simple, because as you can see, there's the basic system bar on top, which you don't have to design this, right? You'll just have to allocate some height for this, because that much space the screen will take. Then there is this small section on the top, which has your title, which has a couple of buttons. Then there are 2 buttons here. Then the chat list item, which you're duplicating. And then the basic tab bar at the bottom for navigation. It looks intimidating, but it isn't. So for this, let's try to use, what size is this? You can view the size right here. So 375, 812. So it must be at this size. 13 mini, or there is iPhone X. Yeah, the iPhone X, like these are the standard sizes that we design on, and developers, they take that and they adjust this for all kinds of device sizes. Cool. So for phone, we'll do, this. Let's start with the top. We'll allocate some space for this. If you are using a template, it will have all these elements by default. It will have your button. How will the buttons look like? How will text look like? It will have by default the system menu, etc. But my point was that you don't need to be restricted to any templates. You should be able to just do a small rectangle and a small line and allocate space for that. So let's say this is your system bar. This is your, the bar right after this. We'll change the opacity a little bit. So in the center, we'll write chats. Okay, I'll align that to center. If you see, if you're dragging this, you'll see that the object I'm on top of, it's helping me align to that object. I will duplicate this, Command D, and go towards the left and change this to edit. Then once again, we need an icon. I'll use Iconify. Once again, this is the same icon that we'll use. So I put that here. In wireframes, most developers don't, they like it if you don't use like high fidelity styling, like colors, etc. You have to be very mindful about using it. You don't want them to think that, this is going to be the final color. But here in this case, if I don't use color, then it'll be difficult for me to tell that chats is a static text which is appearing, like it's a title, and edit is a button. So I'll need to use something, some color here for all the clickable interactive elements. So I've changed that. And then very quickly, actually, let's just duplicate this, okay? Duplicate right outside of this, broadcast lists, duplicate this towards the right, change this to new group. And now I want to align this to this, right? So I'll select both of these, standard or multiple selection using Shift. And I will quickly do this through here. Align right. Let's move both of these slightly towards the left. Not too fussed about it, but just in case. And now for the chat object, let's group these two things together. So these are your, I don't know, action buttons or whatever you want to call that. This is your Command G. This is your like app bar, and towards the top you have your system bar. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 elements are there. Now we need to do one more, which is your chat element. So I will press O and do an oval. I'll press Shift so it stays like a perfect circle. Then I'll type first name, last name for the name of the person I'm chatting with. Then we'll need to type like, this is my message. I'll make this not bold. And we'll need to add another icon here. Let's do double check like this. And towards the right side, I've duplicated this. I've selected and I'm moving this towards this direction. I'll change the alignment. I'll change the strength. So now this is 010622. And we need one more icon, which is your chevron or arrow or whatever you want to call that. It's looking a little too big for this. I'll change this to 16. And we'll move this here. Now there's just a small divider. So I'll press L for align. And by pressing Shift, I'm aligning, I'm making sure that this is a straight line. I will change the color to something like a little dull than this. This should also be slightly, like not as much. This should be of the same blue. This should be, so you can change the color like this here. Or in case of black, to change black to gray, you can change the opacity also. It's like a good tip to change this to like 50%, for example, or 30%. Devs don't appreciate that. They like a proper color, but while you're just doing this, right, you can still do this. And we'll group all of this and duplicate. So duplicate, move this here. And now I will duplicate again because my last action was also to duplicate. So my next action will follow my last two actions, which is duplicate and moving it slightly below. So duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. This is filling my entire screen. Now, if you were aware of the concepts of auto layout or constraints, if you want to get into that, you should Google it. You'll be able to create one such object and duplicate that, and any changes you make to that one object will reflect into all these other objects as well. But I don't think that's particularly required right now. So all of these will put together Command G into a chat group. And the last thing that we need to do is the bar on the bottom. So a rectangle yet again. As you can see, everything is making rectangles and circles and text and line. There's no other thing. That's why I like to say that I draw rectangles for a living. So this bar is here. Then there is an icon. You don't need to do icons, all the icons. Like this particular icon, double check, represents something that the other party has received it, and it's a major feature. That's why you should be thinking about what kind of icon you can put it here. But these icons, I think you can rely on your designers to do this. I mean, you're communicating the basic idea that there's a difference between double check and a single check, and a mic icon or a photo or whatever. That's why I've put that. But in this case, I'll say that just leave it for your designers. So this, and I will type status here. I will align that to the center and move right here. So we'll group this again and duplicate, 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 duplicate. And now we'll change that to calls, camera, chats, settings, and we'll change the colors to these two things. Okay, we'll make this blue and we'll make this bold and blue as well. Yeah, that's kind of like done, right? Then you can do the next page where your basic chat experience is appearing, and you can link that with this single object. And when you click on this, you'll be taken to the next screen. You can start the prototype in that manner. Yes, so I think that was everything. I think I took a little longer than I expected, Utkarsh, and sorry for that. But without getting into the basics, it would have been difficult. I think this was all from my side. If anyone has any questions, I'm sure there must be some on chat, right?
Right. So I'm just looking at a few. Let me start from the top. Folks, so the session, Priyanka's part has ended. If you have any questions, please write them down in the chat. Like I mentioned earlier, this is being live streamed on YouTube. So if there's anything that you missed, which to be honest, if I was learning Figma for the first time, I would have missed a lot of things. You can always go back and check the recording on YouTube. So I'll take the questions now.
Sorry, just like to add one more thing. So I'll make this file available for everyone. You have your basics towards the starting. How do you navigate? How do you do different shapes and text and all the styling options? For prototype, there's an example, and this is what we've done today in the live section, live session section, and in the do-it-yourself section, you can do the same thing once again. So you can just right-click here, duplicate, and it will go in your. You'll be able to edit this file. Okay. So Utkarsh, I also had I found some of the questions very interesting in the sign up form.
Correct, correct. Yeah. I would say, can we take them towards the end? Like these are, I seem, are related more towards the session that you did, and then we take those ones, right? So the first is my own. You mentioned renaming the elements in the left panel, right? Okay, a very quick question: is the left panel and right panel, do they have a better sounding name so that pleases to the designers, like the PMs, like we can use?
Not that I know of. I
just left panel, right panel. Okay, that's fair. So in the left panel, you renamed it.
It says panels. It's called layers panel, design panel, prototype panel, and inspect panel.
Left panel, right panel for us. So in the left panel, you renamed some of the elements, option 1, option 2. Can we actually search those using a control F somewhere? So for example, if there's hundreds of elements around, can I actually search and find that particular element?
There are ways to do that. There is this. Sorry.
Like for example, if there's 10 screens in parallel.
So there are a couple of plugins that make it happen. You can search through certain assets here as well. But as such, Figma's searching capabilities are not that great right now. I think they have been working on it for a while. I used to use Sketch before this, and I prefer their search mechanism much more than this. You can press, what did I press? I think command and slash, and you can search through some of the items right here, but you can also search through menus and other options.
Okay, so the next question is making interactive wireframes. I think we have already covered that in the prototype section, so this is good enough. Rishabh, Vignesh, please comment if that's good enough. I'll take the next question. Yeah, how to access the plugins, if you could explain again.
So plugins, okay. My menu bar on the top is getting hidden because I'm just sharing Figma. But it has the same elements as this. So you go to plugins and go to manage plugins. It shows me all the plugins that I have installed right now. Towards the end, I can go and browse plugins in community. And this will open this page. The other way to do this is, I was in this file, right? If I go back home here and I go to community, I'll go to the same page. So you'll be able to search through a lot of things here. There are things for design usage. There are a lot of wireframing kits here that you can use, but some of them have things like components, which is very hard to explain in such a short time for someone who's not used this. That's why I thought we'll do something which works across different tools. But in this, you can search through all sorts of things here. So I hope that answered your question. Either through the Figma menu here, plugins menu, manage plugins, and then browse in the community, or you go back to your home section and there you have the community panel available, right? Community option right here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question that we actually had a long discussion in chat while you were presenting. So you mentioned a point on giving your designs to the devs, and while doing that, you mentioned something around showing colors versus not displaying colors. Could you explain that bit once again?
So I think developers that I have worked with, this is my personal experience. Developers that I have worked with, sometimes they're working in their own environment, right? And whatever that I have shared with them, it's possible that they don't grasp that with the same understanding that I have. That's why I have to make it very clearly visible that what I'm sharing is not the final mock-up. It is still a wireframe. That's why people prefer this WhatsApp kind of design more than the Twitter kind of design that we did. Because it's very clear here that this is just a structure, right? Someone can still consider this to be the final design, that, hey, this is the only way that we'll style the button. This is the final spacing that we'll have between this button and the ellipsis button here. Which is why, and it's difficult for developers because they have to build from this. So we have to communicate that this is the fidelity, and this is what I'm trying to do here.
Thank you for that. In that case, I think the only question that we have remaining is from Vignesh. He mentions, how do we decide between FigJam and Figma or whiteboarding?
Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so let's take that. And please also mention if FigJam is free or paid, because I remember they might.
FigJam is paid. That's why I didn't do that. FigJam has a very good capabilities for doing flows. I think it has for wireframing also. I haven't used it since Feb because it became paid and I had to pay to use it. So, and I can use Figma, basic Figma to do everything that FigJam does for me. So I haven't used it in a while, but it has it is much more intuitive in creating flows. I'm sure for wireframes as well. It's paid. Figma is not, FigJam is.
The next question is
for developers. Just one point. If you're on an organization plan, then it will be available to you, I think. Then it should you shouldn't have a problem. But if you're trying things out on your own, then Figma allows like there are some limits, but Figma allows you to do anything.
Another just add on over here, if you're a student, then you can also get into Figma paid plan. That also works, and then you have access to. I'm not sure if you have access to FigJam, but that's a paid plan, so that should work. Right?
Yeah, I don't have knowledge about that. Sorry.
Right. So the question is, another one is talking about developers. How do they extract code for which can be used as template for development? Do you know how to do that?
I'm sorry, I'm not one, so I don't really 100% understand it, but I'll show you how, like the very basics of it. For example, this one, right? They will go to the inspect panel and they'll be able to see like whatever they need to about this object. So right now I've selected the entire button, and this button is a composite of different objects, right? To create the button, they will still need to know what does this rectangle look like, and within this rectangle, where is this text placed. So so the properties that I'm seeing right now are for the entire composite button. Then I'll be able to see properties for this text also, as you can see here, and for this rectangle also. And there are plugins that let you export this and use it as is, kind of like no code. So it creates HTML pages right away. But I don't have any experience with that. So I'm sorry, this is the extent of my knowledge on the subject.
Okay. In that case, yeah, let's go ahead with the questions that you have planned. Rishabh also asked if there's any quick plugins that you can mention which you use a lot.
For what usage? I mean, so I'll share another interesting plugin that I really think helps communicating your idea better, which is called Project Notes. And there are other such plugins available as well. So what it does is it adds like a note towards the end of note around your frame, and you can write your comments here. There are other plugins which let you. I think I should show that. It's a good example. There are other plugins which showcase the flow with the help of arrows. So this, for example, how do you get from this to this? If I wanted to show that on top of the design, I will use a plugin called Autoflow. So I will select the first object on this, which was this rectangle, right? So by clicking on this rectangle, I'll select this rectangle in the next screen. It will create a link between the two. This is very helpful. I think a lot of developers I work with, they appreciate this usage a lot, because if I just share this file as is, right, sometimes they don't understand like what is happening if there are no notes around it, and you should never hand off things without any kind of documentation. Like easier said than done in MVPs and like early stage companies. Like when you're established, when you have a big design team in house, you build processes around that, but it can be challenging with smaller teams. But there should be some kind of labeling, some kind of annotation here and there, and I think a lot of developers they do appreciate this kind of a flow.
just a quick point over there, folks, if you want to understand yourself, you can simply go to the prototype tab and then you can see the connections that you have made yourself. But very slowly creates into a whole web if you have a lot of connections.
Yes, I'll tell you what happens. I share a Figma link with a new client who's never worked with this before, and they're like, okay, I received this email, but what do I do now? Figma does a really bad job with onboarding people who are not designers, because designers, they tend to go to YouTube and learn like all the basics, and a lot of design tools look very similar. But for other people, I think their onboarding process is really broken for other folks.
Okay, so I think that's all of the questions from us, folks. Now we will take the questions that we have received from the sign-up form earlier for Priyanka. There are some interesting ones. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Sure. So there were a few questions that I really liked. I think I have them documented. Right. So some of these questions, they kind of overlap with the Fatima's session next week. But I think there is still some overlap here. So I'd also like to answer some to some extent. I really love the first question. What is the level of knowledge pertaining to UI UX required by a user manager, and how much interference hampers the freedom of design team? So for all the designers, right, you expect them to understand not just their craft or their their domain. You also expect them to know what are the business's needs, what are the tech feasibilities. From data side, you want them to be up to date with the metrics, how are things performing, speak to like regularly see data and speak to any data folks that you have in-house. So it's required also because it helps in delivering the best experience. But in the same manner, I would expect that a product manager should also keep themselves updated with, what are the very common, at least at the basic level, what are the very common interactions, your standard design patterns that are used across whatever product they're building. Like if it's a B2B thing, then it can be a little complex. If it's a B2C thing, then it has to be something which everyone understands, right? And how much is too much? So I don't really understand what is too much. That's for you and your team to decide. But designers like to work in collaboration, and they should work in collaboration. So you should give very objective feedback. You should share data with them. How are their features performing. You should involve them from the very beginning, and not just at the level where you say that, okay, this is the problem and this is how we've decided to solve it. You should involve them from very beginning there. So this was one really good question. What are design principles that one should keep in mind while discussing with product designers? So it's also kind of linked to the first question, right? How do people process information? What are in any flow, what are the number of clicks? How is user perceiving a particular user story or journey? You have to give them context. You have to discuss the need about a feature or a product. You have to discuss technical feasibility, timelines, and then discuss the ideas, and not the other way around, where you just tell them that, hey, this needs to be done in 2 days, and that's about it. Okay, so you have to involve them from very beginning, and you have to kind of speak their language as well. This question, the third one, I think was coming multiple times in the questions that you'd shared with Karsh. How to keep up with all the emerging new trends, design trends and updates. And this was a question from founders and product managers and designers as well. And I think other people in the further sessions can also add to it. You have to keep your eyes very open because you're working in tech. You're building products, so you have to keep your eyes very, very open. You have to observe how other people are doing things. If there are direct competitors, you have to continuously use their products and understand, how are they solving a similar kind of problem. Then there are publications, YouTube channels, books you can read and browse through. And you should, if you have in-house designers, you should speak to them very regularly. You should schedule time with them frequently, and get them to speak. That's how you learn. And just keep your eyes very open. That's all. The last one is also very broad question. This was, I think, the point of the earlier session that I was going to do, but I wanted to answer this because a lot of people ask this question. I talked to a lot of designers who are trying to move into not designers, but aspiring designers who are trying to get a job, right? Who are trying to improve their skills. And they keep asking, like, how do I improve my design sense? How do I build a great taste? How do I train my eye? So you have to train yourself not just on the visuals. You also have to train yourself on usability. You have to keep looking at things and imagine that these are the other ways that this could have been done in. Right, there's one visual problem, you solve this in multiple ways, and you have to think about that and continuously build that mindset. It's not a one-time thing. It's something. It's kind of like a habit that you develop over time. And also train your eye. Right, why does something look more appealing than something else? Is it the layout? Is it some kind of contrast? Is it the type and imagery choice, spacing? You have to think about that a little deeper rather than just saying, hey, this looks better to me, right? Why does this look better? You have to dig deeper into that. How do you take inspiration, right? This is actually, I think, a very common question in a lot of interviews. Where do you draw inspirations from? I would say everyday usage is I think kind of sufficient. If you have gone into that mode where you're continuously thinking about products, I think you won't need to especially pay attention to things that you can get inspired by. And inspiration doesn't always mean new ideas. It also has the other side, which means that you notice things that work for everyone. You notice things that people are doing across different products. For example, yesterday I was talking to someone, and we were looking at we had ordered two things from two different apps, I think Zomato and Blinkit together, and we were looking at their tracking pages, and they looked like 90% similar. We were discussing, like, why does it look so similar? You don't always need to reinvent the wheel, right? They work. Those pages work because people understand how the tracking works there. People understand how do you get support, or if something is not happening, it gets updated there. It works. So that's also inspiration. That you don't just try to do something new. You also try to understand why is something being used everywhere. Right. And I guess the last thing that I have to add to what is the criteria to judge. There are a lot of answers to that. But I think the basics that you have to see is, does this solve, like, whatever solution has been presented to you, does this solve the problem in my context? And my context has user, business, tech, feasibility, time, budget, a lot of things there. And your context, your brief is a mix of all these parameters, and you have to think about whether this solution is working in my context or not, because something that could work very well in some other place might not work that well in my case because my tech feasibility or whatever, because I don't have the budget, for example. It's a very realistic case. So you have to think about all these different parameters, and your context is a mix of everything together. And if it solves problem for you in that context, then I guess that's how you judge something. Yeah, I think that's That's all from, these were some questions that I really liked. There will be probably others also if you can share that.
Thank you so much for this, Priyanka. Folks, we are about to close the session. Just one final question, which I missed earlier. This is from Priyanka. So you mentioned a bit about auto layouts and components. Can you tell us where can we learn more about it? I mean, I'd like to learn that as well.
Auto layouts and components, you can just like Google that, I think.
That's it. Okay. Great.
Yeah, there you'll find like hundreds of tutorials and YouTube links and Medium links and Twitter threads and whatnot about it. You'll find lots of
like
things.
How we learn the rest of the things just the same.
Yeah, it's. I mean, once you get a hang of it, it's quite magical, to be honest. I wouldn't be able to live the life that I'm doing right now if these small features didn't exist in Figma, because it will make everything very, very tedious. So you can always find things on YouTube.
Okay, great. So folks, we are ending the session now. Thank you so much for staying towards the end, those who did. Just one final note from me as a product manager. I learned a lot today, although I have learned how to do Figma by myself. That was very, very painful. I was unlucky like you all to got a live session to do that. But this one that I leave you with, she taught a lot today, and she used a lot of like shortcuts and the pro level things that that she's comfortable with. You and I are not, honestly. There's a lot that
I hope it was like somewhat helpful. I try to touch all the areas that you need to start from scratch, but you can apply that everywhere. You just have to practice a little bit.
Right. And actually, I really covered what I was trying to say. So, right. So thank you for that. And like she mentioned earlier, and like we have displayed earlier, that this is not just to learn to Figma. You can actually apply it on multiple other tools. Somebody mentioned Whimsical as well. Priyanka and I have chatted earlier. She loves Whimsical. She has actually praised that a lot. Right. So that's it from us, folks. Again, a few major things. This is recorded. You can watch it again on YouTube. We would definitely recommend that. Maybe, open a Figma page and then practice it alongside. Second, she will share a doc, right, or a link to the Figma page that you had.
Yes.
And I'll send it to all of you on email so that you have access to that. And third, this is the second session of a series of sessions. We have two more major ones remaining. The immediate next one is with Fatima Raja. She's a brand and product design. She works in that at FanPay. And this session title is Creating with Designers. So today we learned how would you build a design yourself when you're not a designer. The next session is you have a design team with you, but how do you work with them? How do you give feedback to them? How do you get them to work? How do you collaborate with them? That is also very critical, particularly if if you're a product manager, engineer, early stage founder, or anybody who works along with designers. That should be very, very interesting to all of you as well. Since you are here, I'm assuming you have signed up, so you would have invites to that already. Please join in 2 weeks from now. So that's on 18 June. That's still some time. Yeah, that's it from now. Thank you so much, folks, for joining. And thank you to two particular folks, Vignesh and Rishabh, for being so active in chats. I really had a fun time with you. Thanks, Priyanka. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. You can reach out to me if you have any questions around this. And yeah, Utkarsh will share the file.